In this video we take a look at the structured approach to program design and construction. We teach you how to construct and use hierarchy charts when designing programs, and we explain the advantages of having this structured approach. Problem decomposition, or the structured approach as it's known in AQA, is simply the process of taking a big problem and tackling it by breaking it down into smaller subproblems. So we may have one large problem to start with, but then after analysing it carefully, we make this problem easier to tackle and thus easier to code and solve by breaking the problem down into series of smaller and smaller problems. This approach allows individual teams or programs to work simultaneously. It allows specialism and skills to be deployed to the most appropriate area. It saves time, reduces risks and bugs, and has all sorts of advantages to programming. It should be noted that not every single problem out there is easily broken down by using a structured approach. Typical GUI applications which have an event-driven style, like say Word packages, are often very difficult to break down using a top-level structured design. That's not to say a structured hierarchy approach won't be helpful, just sometimes you won't gain as much benefit as you would with another type of program. So here we have what is known as a hierarchy chart, and you create it by a process known as stepwise refinement. So at the top level you have your program, the entire thing you're trying to write. This is the end result. After some initial analysis, you break down that problem into its main top-level areas. And these go at the first level. It's unlikely at this point that you would stop. These would still be very big areas with lots of code and lots of different procedures, functions, classes, all interacting. You would carry out further and more detailed analysis, and you'd keep breaking down the problem into smaller and smaller sections. Ideally, if this is done well, then at the very bottom level, every single one of these boxes in your hierarchy chart would relate to one single action or task or requirement that your program is required to fulfill, and thus could be coded independently as one single procedure, function or method. Here's a simple example based on a program called wages. So the entire program itself is called wages. There are 5 main parts to it. We want to get the number of hours from the user. We want to then calculate the gross pay. We then want to calculate deductions. We then want to calculate the net pay. We then want to produce and output a wage slip. These are all separate parts of this bigger program, and they could each be turned and written into their own procedures or functions. However, calculate gross pay could be broken down even further. You could calculate the normal wages, and then there could be a separate procedure or function which calculates any overtime. These could be 2 separate functions, and the results of the 2 could be returned up here. You can do a similar thing for deductions. Calculate tax, calculate national insurance, add the return values of both those functions together, and the total deductions gets placed back up here. Although this is a very simple example, you can see how by breaking down a program in a structured way and producing hierarchy charts makes it easier to tackle, easier to solve, and makes it much less likely that you'll end up with bugs or errors, and more likely you'll produce an end solution that meets the requirements and is fit for purpose.